that half the audience is checked out because there's zero relevance. And that's why I love talking about attention, and I'll get to that in a minute, because the one thing I'm sure of is that every single person here needs to understand that they have to grab attention and then storytell and create the action that they want. At the same token, it is that action that fascinates me. Nobody's sitting here without some sort of ambition to create something to happen. And I think there's a real huge mistake and misunderstanding of what, to be very frank, what I think has gotten me here versus other people in other statures and different opportunities. And there's just a very big difference between branding and selling. And I think for a lot of you in this room, there's a real interesting conversation and paying attention and trying to figure out, how am I going to bring value to this specific audience, this specific time, in an environment where I know a lot of you have already watched plenty of my content. Like, how the fuck do you figure that out? And it's intriguing to me that as I go down the path of success, I'm trying harder to bring value, not the other way around. And look, to me, that is the framework. Nobody's in control except for the end audience at scale. You may sit here and dwell because you're a defensive-minded person and think somebody's controlling shit. Facebook's not controlling shit. Facebook's exposing you because you're the one liking that shit. Mm-hmm. So we sit around and we dwell and we go on defense and we think and all this, and what we need is dramatic accountability. You know how many people in this audience right now say that they're passionate about two things that I know more than anything is that we are living through the single greatest era for humans ever right now. I know that we're deploying plenty of things that we're upset about, and there's a lot of tension in the air, and I think that's appropriate. I just don't think that we put things into context. You may not be happy about certain things in technology or politics or business or what have you, but that's a hell talk. This thing. You have to, how many people do not have a cell phone? Raise your hand.
Wow.
Cool. Zero, by the way, for everybody in the front rows. This thing is ridiculously powerful. This thing is the remote control of our society. This thing has eliminated every excuse out of your fucking mouth. Because if you have to work 9 to 6 to pay the bills, to pay your dues, to pay your debts, that is exactly right and appropriate. Everybody comes from different starting points. I have unbelievable empathy to that. Millions of dollars, if you understand district press. You would have had to buy trucks. You would have had to done so much. The fact that every person here can literally turn this on themselves, create content around something they're interested in, and then have platforms like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn distribute it, let me remind you, at no cost, is so batshit crazy for all of us old fuckers in here that I just wish people would not take it for granted. And so, my friends, I come here tonight to really try to pull off one move. Can I actually take somebody, even if they're a huge fan, or if they've never heard of me before, and tweak their perspective on what's actually going on? Can I convince one of you that nobody gives a shit about your headaches and problems, and when you complain, you're just taking minutes off the board and energy off the board from doing something about it? Literally, I am fascinated. Like, I consume nothing but your comments. And I get into rabbit holes. You know how on Wikipedia or YouTube, you start off watching something and then 3 hours later, you're watching like penguins like shitting on each other? That's what I do with comments. You guys leave comments. 80% of it, is like something is either overwhelmingly like I'm the Messiah, which you can keep doing that, I feels great, or I'm a snake oil salesman and a piece of shit. I love that even more, by the way. Keep feeding me, you fucking losers, okay? But the 20% super interesting to me, which is, say something, and of that 20%, 10% say something really intriguing. I'm a little bit of an enigma. I'm an interesting kind of character in the way that I communicate versus my actions. Actually, watch this. How many people here, remember, lying is the devil. How many people here, honestly, the first time or two that they came across me, thought I was a dick for being an immigrant, like America, capitalism, like, if Misha and Xander crush it, if VaynerMedia crushes it, you know, like that I can be like, that's me. But like when I think about what my parents did and what my circumstance and environment did, I'm just incapable of doing anything for anybody and expecting anything in return. You want to live a very happy life? Create the framework that I did naturally. I don't know if I created it or if it was given to me. The greatest version of life I've ever seen is the one I'm living, which is nobody ever disappoints you because you never expected anything from anybody. I'm telling you right now, you want to talk about why so many of you aren't exactly where you want to be? Look deep inside yourself on what your expectations of others are. And then the worst fuckers of you are the ones that do shit expecting something more in return. That's my favorite. That's like the 10 emails I got today. Gary Vee, I'll buy you lunch when you're in Sydney. Yeah, that sounds fucking rad, Rick. Can't wait to get that $8 sandwich for a fucking hour and a half session. My friends, accountability, giving with no expectation in return, playing the long game. Every single person's business or ambition will grow exponentially tomorrow if they spend the next 13 years giving away free content forever. Seems super non-natural work and people like to razz me too much. The only reason I talk about that is it's not interesting for me to sit here and tell you to become smarter. Imagine if this talk was like, hey guys, be smarter. There's zero practicality in that. The one guaranteed controllable thing for this entire audience, row by row, is if you work more could happen. If you work, I love when people are like, hey Gary, but they raise a hand in the queue. Hey Gary, listen, you talk about working hard, but I'm working smart, and that's working. And I'm like, cool bro, but I'm working hard and smart, so fuck you. Guys, we are living through a ridiculously phenomenal era, and let's look at Instagram, regardless of what you do. I'm talking, you're targeting 50 to 80-year-olds in a B2B environment. So I'm gonna say this nice and slow. I'm a businessman, not a social media guru. Listen very carefully. If you are not spending a disproportionate amount of your money and time and energy in 2018 on Facebook and Instagram, you are leaving significant upside for what you're trying to achieve on the table. This ship has sailed. This is not a debatable issue anymore. And when I look at the prices for the Australian market of attention, it's even better than the US market. When I look at the Australian influencers and direct mail and events and everything else are gonna get you to the next chapter, you will lose. All those things I mentioned work. They're just either priced appropriately or grossly overpriced, while the things I just talked about prior to that are grossly underpriced. If you pay the appropriate price for Google and direct mail and your competitor underbuys attention on Facebook and Instagram, you will lose. That is how it's always happened. If you're baffled how the biggest companies in the world continue to go out of business, it's because of the thing that I just talked about. And let me tell you what's getting close spending enough money on Facebook. Not even close. When they wake up, like they did on Google in 2009 and 10, even though I was buying attention in 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5. When they wake up, which they're about 2 years away from waking up, and they start pouring the right amount of money into those platforms, you will no longer be paying $6 CPMs in front of any citizen in Australia that you want targeted to Asian or African American or a footy fan or somebody who drinks beer or who likes Hunter Valley Semillon or all the other things that you can do on Facebook. Yet you don't know this because you guys aren't practitioners. You have opinions on Facebook advertising, you just aren't putting in enough work or enough research and smarts to get even close to that place. While we have the greatest era ever, let me explain. If this was a business talk in 1974 and I was telling you stuff, you'd have to go to the library to read fucking books to get more detailed information when I was done. The fact that everybody here who has no fucking idea how to make a Snapchat filter or run a YouTube pre-roll on a video based on the queries and searches that person made on Google or how it was, Words that I spend 10 cents a click for are now $8, $6, $4. It changed. It came and went. I built a big business for my dad on the back of it, but it could have been much bigger. You might be doing a little Facebook and a little bit of Instagram, but you're not doing enough. It is underpriced. And by the way, this whole 10-minute rant, just so everybody knows, I don't give a fuck if you do anything I just said. I'm putting this on film to just be historically correct. You're not my sister. I don't care. And so I implore you, I've got nothing to fucking sell you, girls and boys. I'm trying to sell legacy here and be right. So please figure out why you're not doing what I just said. And usually it comes from hardcore human flaws. Audacity, ego, just don't want to do the work. You know, you've been working hard on other things, you don't want to do the work, you don't have time. My friends, way bigger companies than you can sweet. Where do you think the world's going? And so please, I beg you to take this talk, this moment, this night, to have the cold shower that I'm trying to deliver, to recognize you're not doing enough. You're not pushing it hard enough. You're not educated enough. You're not doing the hard work. You're just not. I know it. I know it. And again, listen, I'm sure there's plenty of you doing all the right things. Cool. I'm talking about the fact that I looked at everybody who used this hashtag today and then spent time on my flight from Brisbane here and in the back room looking at what you're doing. You're mailing it in. You've got the accounts to make yourself feel good that you're doing it. What's the ROI of a piano? How many people here, this is time to tell the truth because it's okay, because it should, a lot of hands should go up. How many people here have run Facebook ads that didn't work for them? Raise your hands. Raise them high and I want it. Stand up. Stand up if you ran Facebook ads and it didn't work for you. I want everybody to look around. In my passionate plea for the last 15 minutes, and then in the people that stood up here, you guys can sit down, thank you so much, is the rub, is the thing that I'm most passionate about. How many people here have run Facebook ads that have worked for them? Stand up.
Nice.
This is it. This is the thing that matters to me. Thank you. You can sit down. Grossly underestimate us. We're about to live in the growing era of voice. Get ready for the next 5 to 7 years. All of the action, all of this unbelievable underpriced attention is coming to a voice next to you. It's going to be in podcast form right now, over the next half decade between Amazon Alexa and Google Home and Apple HomePod, and Facebook better fucking figure it out, and whoever else is playing, they're gonna produce things, and every city to get rid of that person because it is hurting your long-term upside. Most of you don't want to do that because that means you have to go back in and do something that that person's covering, and how many nice things are said about you. My friends, everybody's watching. And now with technology, everybody's watching for real. Every word, every tweet, every Facebook thing you say is something that you're going to have to explain to your grandchild. Everything you sell, how you sell it, how you interact. I implore you, listen, it's one thing when somebody leaves an anonymous review on our site and says, I'm a jerk because they got fired and they sucked, fine. It's another thing if somebody has never met me and I said that their company sucks and they get upset and they say I'm a blowhard, makes sense. But the people that actually interact with you, who've spent time with you, you better make sure that you're living a life that puts you in a position for them to say the right thing. The only way you can do that, actually, in my opinion, is to have a very long-term vision. So many people here want it to happen tomorrow and are going to live for another 77 years. So many of you are taking shortcuts to make an extra $15,000 tomorrow, and it's going to cost you money for the next 44 years. We are stunningly intriguing animals with our inability to be patient.